question is what drew you to Sid as a subject for a documentary?
Well, when I was a kid, I was really into punk rock, and when I was about 11, I got the Great Rock and Roll Swindle album, and I totally loved it, and I watched the movie. I loved Sid. I loved the attitude, the look. I thought he was a funny guy, you know, and eventually I got to see Sid and Nancy, the movie and all that, and I always had sympathy for both of them, you know. Also, I grew up with junkies, so I know how they are, I understand them, I have also sympathy for them somehow, you know. So that was it, and in Brett's case, there's another story, so he'll tell you.
What, like the movie, yeah?
Well, what
what it was is like, what drew Danny to Sid, I'm guessing.
To you.
What drew me to Sid? It's a story in itself. I mean, one of my first memories of growing up is watching TV. I was about 5 years old, and it was Sid's death, and I'm thinking to myself, there's this guy who's on TV called Vicious. It's like, you just don't, it's something that, you know, I'd never heard of. You know, only geriatrics died, in my opinion. So when I looked at this, it was just an interest that carried on. It's, you know, 43 years later, we're doing it still.
And now you're writing a book.
Oh yeah.
So Brett's writing a book about Sid Vicious and runs a Sid Vicious sort of fan page on the internet as well, which we'll come on to a bit later.
Cool.
So Danny, you mentioned Alex Cox's film Sid and Nancy, which is considered, you know, a seminal film in its own right as a movie. In any way, was your film a reaction to that? Was it informed by it?
No, not really. I mean, I've been reading books about the Pistols and Sid and Clash, etc., the whole movement for years. I mean, that movie was cool. When I started doing this, it was just out of curiosity, really. I was working on Looking for Johnny, and for years I've been asking people who lived those years if they knew Sid and Nancy, and I would ask them for anecdotes or what happened, when you met them and so on. So it was just curiosity, really. So I started filming these interviews on my cell phone. That's why some of the interviews still in the movie are from the cell phone, like Sylvain or Lee Black Childers, who died a couple of years ago. And then after I did a few of them, I was like, whoa, this is like a documentary in itself. This is really interesting to me. So I decided to do a few interviews again, like with Bob Gruen, and I carried on like shooting them properly and stuff, because I just decided to do the documentary. And then one day, talking to Peter Perry, he mentioned Sad Vacation, how the SV, and it was all dedicated to Sid Vicious, and I thought, wow, that's a cool title. And then obviously Sad Vacation being, referring to the days they spent in New York, that ultimately gave me the direction to follow to do this film, because at the beginning, like I said, it was just a compilation of anecdotes, just that I was gonna do it for the hell of it, just because I'm curious about these people,
So one of the things that I guess a lot of people might wonder is, Sid, in the film, a lot of people talk about his charisma and his sense of humour, which comes across in interviews. But here was a guy who he couldn't play his instrument, he didn't write anything, he did not leave a body of work, he didn't play on the great on Nevermind the Bollocks. Yet somehow people, even to this day, kids now are drawn to him. So, question for both of you: what do you think it is that has given Sid this legacy as a great cultural, not just a rock and roll icon, but an icon within popular culture?
Well, he liked to watch Elvis movies, so he had that sneer all the time, and that plus the look and the attitude and everything, and playing good was not well regarded in '76. Okay, so if you were a virtuoso, you were out of the band automatically. So playing good or playing bad or not playing, that was not the problem. It was more the attitude and the look and the fuck you attitude towards society in general, because you gotta remember the '70s were very, very boring. There was these people with long hair wearing these silly clothes with flowers and flares and shit like that. And punk rock changed everything, and people don't remember that. Before punk, everything sucked, more or less, okay? So, yeah, that's why probably.
I think in terms of Sid's legacy, it's like a lot of the fans just don't believe the bullshit that came with it. And they just look at him as someone that they identify with, as the females especially. having run the website and stuff, there's a huge female following with Sid, and it's the aesthetic for them, definitely. But I just think, all in all, is that when they look at films like The Rock and Roll Swindle and they see the myth and everything that happens, they just don't fall for it. It's they know that he was just a normal kid.
Do you see his legacy today in, not just in music, but in popular culture? Where do you see it?
Well,
don't say X Factor. Don't say X Factor.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere. There's not really much to say to that. I mean, all you got to do is look at a lot of the punk groups that are out now. They all look like Sid. I think he was the style icon.
Do you think he's responsible for things like Green Day, though?
No way. I think he would be turning in his grave to see punk like as this big commodity. I don't know.
So tell us a bit about the book. Where are you at? What stage of it? And what can people expect from it?
Well, get this. It's been going since 2007, but I started again in 2014 because there've been other books out and stuff. So I thought this time I'm going to go all the way. There's going to be no stone unturned. I had a deal for it in 2014, and so far it's a couple of hundred pages, and it's going to be a huge 400-page time. And it's just going to be the ultimate book, basically.
And Danny, so you've made films about The Clash, Joe Strummer, Rise and Fall of The Clash, Johnny Thunders, Sid Vicious. What's next for you? I mean, are there any more dead punks that you're gonna make documentaries about?
Actually, yeah. I'm gonna start shooting tomorrow interviews for a new documentary on Steve Baders, who was the singer of the Dead Boys, Lords of the New Church and stuff. And he has a huge following in the United States. And yeah, I'm definitely interested in this last line of outlaw rock and rollers. To me they represent the last true rock and rollers, really, because you look at the Stones today and they're a joke. Like most bands today there's a lack of substance in everything to do with culture, whether it's films, books, comic books, music. Everything's pretty bland, like they use saccharin kind of thing. It's just bollocks.
Yeah. Okay, so who's got a question? The woman there in the glasses.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Congratulations on the movie. I really liked. I'm a Brazilian film critic, and I'm just curious about how did you come across with a musician Supla? That you thanked him, because when I come here and say, well, there was a punk scene in the 80s in Brazil, and people just like, in Brazil. So I'm just curious.
Well, I got family in Brazil, and I've visited your country a few times. And the last time I was there, I was introduced to Supla, and we became friends. So when I was making this movie, I told him, I need music. Do you have anything that you think would suit this? And he sent me a track, Lifestyle, which is a really wonderful song, and I used it in the film, and he's really glad that I did. I mean, he's a super fan of Sid and Nancy and the whole thing. So, and I love Brazil. I love Brazilian people. I love the country, the culture. So, yeah, I'm just glad to have friends over there too. Hopefully I'll get back there soon.
Chap down here on the front row.
Hi, very obvious question. Didn't you try to interview any of the original members for this documentary?
Yeah, I got in touch with Paul Cook and Glenn Matlock. Paul didn't even respond. Glenn wanted like 2,500 quid, so that was his way of saying no. So I didn't bother with Steve Jones. I asked friends in LA if they could contact him, but these people are very elusive. They don't give a toss. And they've said everything they wanted to say about Sid already in their official documentaries, so we know what's their position already, really. I don't think they have a lot more to add.
Next question. Chap in the middle there.
Are there any relatives at all? Is Sid Vicious still alive? Any uncles or aunts or anything?
Yeah, his aunt is still alive. His cousin is still alive. Not much else other than that. Well, I guess than whoever else, but these are the people that are in his biographies that you'll read about. And yeah.
It's a good point. Yeah, there's a quote that Joe Wobble came out with where he said that, you know, obviously the four of them were all going through this thing together that was being in the Pistols, and you know the amount of abuse that they were getting. And he said he thought that one of the reasons that Lydon was able to cope with it was because Lydon had a past and was able to embrace that past, you know, that family, that Irish family in Finsbury Park. But he made the point that Sid had no past, and that was probably, you know, one of the things that abandoned him, you know, not being able to go into the, you know, the sanctity of a family, or, you know, some kind of, you know.
He didn't have a normal upbringing at all. He was raised around smack. That's pretty much, you know, when you're looking at your sole parent who's meant to be the guardian of your life, and she's like drooling on the carpet. That's what he had to grow up with.
I read that she kicked him out of home when he was 16. Is that
yeah,
true?
That's true. Yeah, and a couple of times he got kicked out. I've actually spoken to the guy that he stayed with. So yeah, there's stuff that it'll be in the book.
Next question. Woman in the middle there.
Hello. We are followers of the Sex Pistols experience. I'm just going to embarrass him by saying, how did you get in contact with Connor to play the Sid Vicious?
Through Brett. Do you want to tell him, Brett?
Yeah, I'll tell it again.
Sorry, Connor.
Basically, he was saying that he needed a Sid to do the UK scenes, and to me, Connor was the only one. Like, I've seen this guy, but I mean, I'm not a great fan of tribute acts myself, so I'm kind of distant from that. But because I run the website and people are posting pictures of Connor, I'm like, Jesus Christ, this kid looks like him. So I said, Danny, I can get this guy, and he's like, yeah, man, we'll have him. So that's pretty much it.
Is he here?
Yeah, stand up, Connor. Where are you? I can't even see.
Round of applause. Is there a Nancy in the room? No? Okay. Next question. Right at the back there, in the middle there.
Hi, I just wondered why you finished with the picture of Nancy's sort of stone, the tomb.
Because that's where both of them ended up, you know, Sid's mom's, you know, threw the ashes right there, and, you know, so I thought it was fitting, basically. And it's a beautiful, you know, stone, you know, and you can see like all the things that people leave there, and little notes and dedications to Nancy, because Sid has a lot of followers, but Nancy has a lot of following too. You know, a lot of girls, a lot of women that are, you know, they feel lonely or whatever. You know, they have problems at home. A lot of them identify with Nancy. You know, so it's kind of interesting. She's a really powerful character as well. You know, as well as Sid. In fact, we have Richard Mann right here, which is the photographer who took the picture of the poster. And like we have plenty of his photos in the film, and he was telling us how she was more menacing and more scary than he was. Is that right, Richard? Yeah. There you go.
I was just interested because at the beginning you said you had a great deal of sympathy or empathy for both of them. And I guess everybody reads it however they want to, nobody will ever know. But even in the film it comes across to me that there was something very troubled and dark about her, and despite his issues, there was something more life-affirming about him. And I always read it more like a tragedy than Great Romeo and Juliet. I see it more like a kind of meeting of two people that was very unfortunate.
Yeah, they were both, I think, you know, they
but
both...
in particular.
Yeah, well, they both helped each other, I think, as well, you know, because they were both messed up, so they needed somebody for, you know, to help each other, basically, you know, so... I think that was the case. You know, they recognized each other in one another. You know what I mean?
It's a good point when you mention a tragedy, because obviously in the film, you know, you allude that it was almost Shakespearean, you know, the punk Romeo and Juliet, and I get that. I also think there's almost an element of Greek tragedy to, you know, especially with his mum, with Anne Beverley giving him, you know, the fatal dose of heroin. That's almost something that you might get in a Greek tragedy. Next question. In the middle, just there.
Hi. After interviewing all those people, do you think Sid killed Nancy?
Well, I think it was an accident, really, to tell you the truth. I mean, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt, you know what I mean? He was obviously pissed off after having been punched by the bellboy. And I'm sure Nancy could get on your nerves pretty well, you know, and...
I've seen her, yes, she was quite annoying.
Right. I think I'll go with an accident, to tell you the truth. You know, I don't think he wanted to kill her. I don't think he wanted to stab her. I don't think... None of it. But the truth is he went and got his methadone and left her unattended for hours, you know, so...
Guilty by negligence.
Yeah, guilty by negligence for sure, you know, it's sad, but that's what happened.
Who's next? Over here, just 3 rows in from the front.
It kind of answered my question. I was going to ask what each of you guys think years later, exactly your views on what you think did happen.
Well, I just said it. What do you think, Brett?
If I say 100%, then is it going to be worth me releasing a book? But I will say that murder, no. Accident, yes. Take that however it is. But you have to think that if somebody's going to stab someone, that the blade's going to go all the way in. And it didn't happen in this case. So it leads me to believe that there was some kind of lash out, or there wasn't a full intent there. So definitely murder, no.
Well, and also when it's a passion murder, usually they stab, like, they stab like 19, 20, 30, 60 times, you know. That's a passionate killing. When you have a direct relationship with that person you're killing. That didn't happen, you know. So I definitely think it was an accident.
I'm going to go with the experts here. Next question. Towards the back, person in the middle.
Sorry, it's just a follow-up on those 2 things. In a previous film that I've got, there was a suggestion that the guy that was called Skippy, or whatever his name was, there were witnesses that saw him and he left. But also what you thought about the idea that someone else has also said that his mother had deliberately given him the dose as well. So what you make of those 2 things in terms of Nancy's killing and the fatal dose administered by his mother that was left in a letter to a previous researcher?
Well, there's been a lot of, you know, stories that night there was a party in the room, that, you know, this guy or the other guy, I mean, you know, there's a lot of stories. But when you look at the timeline of events, there was no party in the room, you know. They were just there by themselves, and Rockets came in with Ned, and there was this other guy, Skip, there, and Victor Colicchio, and that was it. And after finding out about the bellboy incident, and when you read Sid's confession that mentions the bellboy, saying, yeah, I went back to the room, I had an argument with Nancy, she punched me just when the bellboy had punched me, and I took the knife out. And I mean, that's the moment when we realized, well, he actually did it, because the bellboy's story and Sid's story connect perfectly. And I never knew about the bellboy, because everybody else forgot about him. But when I found the grand jury documents, the transcripts, and I found this story that occurred, you know, around 5 a.m. and stuff, I thought that was very interesting, and following it up, there you go, Sid actually speaks about the bellboy. And about his mom giving the last final dose deliberately or not. I don't think she did. I don't think a mother wants his kid dead. I mean, mothers have a protective instinct, you know. They're not murderers, you know, usually. I mean, it's a pretty hardcore thing to say, you know. I don't think she did. I think that smack was really strong, and I think what Howie says that he went like, just give it here, you know. And if you hear the story that Dan Brown talks about how he would shoot up, he would, like, you know, tip a whole gram into the spoon, whether other junkies would take 10 doses, he would take 1. I mean, it was pretty kamikaze, you know what I mean? It was pretty determined to get high. at any cost. So that's the danger when you take drugs. You can go at any moment, and he knew it, and that's what happened. I don't think she did on purpose. I don't think so.
Question over there.
Hi. So basically, it's sort of directly linked to this, but you were saying about people or musicians or acts today that you just don't think represent anything of any substance. I just out of interest, like, what do you like at the moment? Just for people, like, or for say young kids who watch this and they don't really know about Sid, Nancy, or the punk movement or anything like that.
Modern music, you mean?
Yeah. I'm just generally want to know what you like, because
sometimes I listen to songs that I like, whoa, that's a cool song.
Yeah.
But
No,
I don't
like,
really.
is there any? Like, I'm just out of interest. Is there anything that you think that's
Modern day.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I got friends in bands that I really like,
Yeah.
but you don't know them.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if kids are watching, this, say, like my nephews and nieces who've never heard of, say, the Sex Pistols, and they think, oh, this is what this band stood for. They'll be like, what kind of bands? At the times that we live in at the moment, like government-wise, and everything is not amazing, and it's pretty much not anything better than it was back then right now. So,
Right.
if you're a child...
Everything in terms of music has been done in the last century, as in terms of painting and cinema, practically. I mean, everything has been done. So now we're just rehashing everything, remixing everything. You know, there hasn't been any new music since, I don't know, the mid-90s probably, like styles of music, you know what I mean? There's, I'm not the one to ask because I listen to old music. I listen to a lot of ska and reggae and rocksteady and stuff like that.
I like that music too. I'm just thinking, like, if it was like a young kid watching this, they'd be like, oh, who's in my generation that's being like this or a band like that? And I was just interested to see if you...
Well, he was mentioning Big Doherty. I don't really listen to him, but I couldn't really help you there. Do you have any ideas about this, Brett?
Not really. Sid's like sort of, to me, he's like, you know, Pete Doherty, I guess, is kind of like the closest thing that we've got, and maybe Amy was the closest thing we got to a Nancy. I don't know, but and not music-wise. I mean, you know, Baby Shambles are a different thing, but there is a looseness, and there is a like every gig they play is like held together with paper clips, like it can fall apart any second. We haven't seen that since the Sex Pistols, so I kind of go with that, but I'm not a fan particularly.
And I would say, you know, put my oar into it, that, you know, you look at things like grime, which is, you know, it come about in the last 10 years, that is probably the closest thing that we have to punk. You know, that's music that came from council estates.
The White family as well, I suppose.
I don't rate them at all, Mickey, sorry, but
really?
No, not at all, they're fakes. But regardless of that,
Conversation we had later then.
sorry to offend any Fat Whites fans, we're just not into them.
His mum's over there.
No, I personally think that the grime scene, you know, that's music coming from council estates. That's kids that are disaffected.
How do you know none of the Fat Whites are not from council estates?
I just don't like their music.
Well, that makes no sense.
Anyway, this isn't about me, this is about the film. Who's got another question?
You can't make a statement like that.
I'll talk to you after, Mickey.
Anyway, question.
One more question. Middle of the row there, lady with her hand up.
Thank you. I'm just curious as to where you found some of the people whom you interviewed, because many of the interviews seem full of kind of conjecture, kind of carelessness. I mean, he seemed to be surrounded by really careless people, and I was at the last UK gig in Huddersfield. They played in a beer cellar on Christmas Day, and then they went off to the States. And I'm just astonished that at that final event that there was no one there to kind of intervene, and that the guy that's being interviewed, I apologize, I can't remember his name, but he just seems like a careless ass, you know, like he didn't give a fuck about the guy, and yet he's given so much airtime. And there's a sense of the people being interviewed as being pretty vacant, and I just kind of wonder about there's not a sense of gravitas and real love about him. There's a kind of fakery in those people, and I just wondered if you could comment on that, how you saw.
But on who in particular?
Well, many of the people that are being interviewed, they just seem to be kind of careless in their discussion.
I don't know. I mean, Phyllis, Donna, they really like Nancy. You know. I don't know. I mean, I don't really know who you're referring to. Rodent, he really likes Sid. He didn't like Nancy at all.
He was the strongest. He came across with gravitas and real insight.
I don't know, because I don't know what she's referring to.
What did he look like? Can you describe him so that Danny knows who he is?
Pardon me. The gentleman who was being interviewed latterly, talking about them driving up to Connecticut, scattered the ashes. And
I don't know what to say to that.
in fact, I think he even mentioned he snorted Sid's ashes. That guy.
I don't know. I think that guy, he was really into Sid. He was just a little kid back then, you know what I mean?
He's been in all the previous documentaries as well. So.
Yeah, that's true. He's been in other documentaries about Sid.
How are we doing for time? We got time for more, is that it? 5 minutes. Chap just along the row. Chap, oh, is it a woman? Sorry, can't see. It's a woman, sorry. These lights are really bright.
I have got breasts. Just a very flippant question, I'm afraid, to try and lighten the mood a little bit. If Sid had survived, do you think he'd be doing commercials for butter?
Fuck no. I think if he'd managed to stick around, and if he'd managed to get some wholesome guidance in his life, and I learned this from a lot of people that I've interviewed for my book, and a lot of these people haven't been interviewed before, and they say that they feel that he could well be a healthy ambassador for getting well in drugs, things like this. It sounds a bit stupid, and I find it really difficult to kind of say, you know, yeah, I agree with you 100%, but this comes from the people that knew him and that were like his best friends. There's one in particular I'd like to give a shout out to called David Stevens, who was his best friend from 1971 to 76, and has just told me so much stuff, and unfortunately couldn't get him into the film, but yeah, I think if he had stuck around, who knows, would he be a massive star? I can kind of picture him doing, like, I don't know, electronic pop music and stuff in his like My Way tux, like, you know, I don't know.
Or could you see him like on The Voice on the panel, you know, just like criticising people?
For some reason I just see that. I see that he would have been a pop star. I think he's more of a pop star looking than the punk star. I know that, you know, some people would just want to throw bricks at me for that.
I mean, I think he is quite a singular presence in music. I mean, can you name anyone else that was in a band, in a seminal band, that didn't even play, you know, that didn't write anything?
He did play.
Well, live sometimes, but not on record.
No.
So I mean, is there anyone else though that has got the reputation that Sid has, that, you know, didn't play that much, isn't renowned for, you know, being a figure, a bass player? Bez.
That's a good one.
That's a good one, yeah, good old Bez. Okay, bit of time for some more questions. So has anyone else got some questions for the guys here? Yeah, just over there. You look like a person, so we're going to say the person on that row there.
I can't even see.
Yeah, these lights are bright, aren't
They're
they?
really bright, yeah.
Turn them down.
Hi there, love the film.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Just going very quickly back to the thing they were saying about the ashes and saying how they took them out and put them on Nancy's gravestone. I heard this silly thing I've read so many times about the mum bringing the ashes back, I think it was, and dropping that forever Sid is blowing through the aircon system at the airport. I take it that's bullshit.
Complete myth.
It's 100% myth.
It's a good one.
It's
though,
a
isn't
great
it?
one. It's fantastic, and that's the whole reason why I'm writing the book. You know, to clear up a lot of this kind of stuff. There's so much that's out
What
there.
is the, I want to say the worst, but what's the best Sid rumour that isn't true that you've ever heard?
That's put me on the spot.
Just a good one then, not the best.
I can't think of one. I really couldn't.
Make up one now, then, go on.
I can tell you something that a lot of people don't know about Sid.
Go on then.
That he lost his virginity to a man.
Really?
Yeah, a guy called Freddie Burrows, who run a store called Dax and Simpsons.
Bloody hell, that is good. Okay. Any more questions? One more and then we're going to be wrapping up. Chap on the back, is it? I can't see, so if I'm calling you, it is good. Apologies if I got anyone's gender wrong, it's these lights.
I just can't see.
Hi. So the Sex Pistols have reformed a couple of times. Now, who do you think would have been playing bass if Sid had lived in the reunion tours?
Well, probably Glenn, because he knows how to play properly. I don't think Sid had any interest in learning how to play bass.
Sid would be doing the Bez roll, wouldn't he? Just dancing to the side of the stage.
Probably.
Okay, one more. If he had lived, would he be bald or grey?
Well, he was losing his hair already, apparently. That's why he stopped shooting Speed. That's what Helen Killer was telling me. He was actually losing his hair, and he was desperate about it. And she was telling me that you couldn't touch his hair, that he was very paranoid about his hair, that he spent hours putting it up and stuff. So, yeah, he was losing his hair, actually.
It's in a lot of photographs you can see he's receding.
In a lot of the later photographs, he's receding quite badly. So.
Okay, thank you all for coming. A round of applause for Danny and for Brett.